What is happening, guys? Kadi Plays here, bringing you another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing a ban list for the post-ban list and post-New Born Dragon set release. There's a lot to talk about with this new set coming out and with the new ban list just going into effect. It's not gone into effect officially on the ladder yet. That'll happen on September 30th, but it has gone into effect for like community tournaments and different things of that nature. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on for this video. I'm a competitive player, so this is going to be from a tournament / competitive perspective primarily. However, most of the analysis is going to translate to the ladder very, very well. Got a lot of decks to jump in, get through, so we're going to go and jump right in. Starting off, got 5 different categories here. The first one is meta defining, which is exactly what it sounds like. This is what defines the meta. You have to prepare for these decks. You have to know how to play against these decks, or you're not going to be able to succeed in the metagame. Tier 2, it's not quite meta defining, but you need to know how to play against these decks because you're probably going to see them in a tournament or see them on the ladder in some capacity. Tier 3 is not going to be as popular as Tier 2, and probably isn't as strong as Tier 2, but it can definitely compete with the metagame and it can win tournaments. It can get to Diamond 1. A good pilot is going to be able to operate these decks at a very high level, but you're just not going to see them very often. Maybe once every 2 or 3 tournaments. Rogue, you're barely ever going to see this, but it is relevant and it can win with the right pilot. Needs support / needs buffs is exactly what it sounds like, guys. These are decks that need stuff to come off the ban list or need some support in the future. So yeah, let's jump right on with ABC. So ABC is definitely in the need support category. This did just get ABC Buster Dragon to 2, which is much needed, but it doesn't have the Therion support yet. Once it gets the Therion support, this deck is going to see a massive influx in power and popularity. When that happens, I could probably see it at Tier 3, maybe even Tier 2 range, but until that happens, it's going to be at the need support category. Adamancipator. I think Adamancipator is definitely a Tier 3 strategy. This is not seen much in competitive play, but it did not get hurt by the ban list very much at all. It did lose Halki Fibrex, but this deck can operate without Halki Fibrex very easily and very successfully. It still has its Union Carrier shenanigans. It's still got Block Dragon. It's got a lot going for it. Altergeist. Altergeist is on the cusp of Tier 3, I think, but I think it's going to be one of the gatekeepers of Rogue. This has been seeing a lot of popularity since the Multifaker has come back to 2 here in Master Duel, and this is a very slow format that we're currently in, so Altergeist is really taking advantage of that. This has been seeing some tournament success recently, but I think that's more because of the player playing Altergeist as opposed to the deck itself. But I do think this might be the best control / trap strategy in the game currently. Armed Dragon. I think Armed Dragon is down here in the need support / buff category. It was doing decently in tournaments because of the adventure engine and because it's like infinite Omni Negate loop, which is kind of insane. So you can definitely make the argument that it's Rogue, but I don't think it's consistent enough to continue to do that at a high level, especially with the adventure nerf. Adagnister. Adagnister is definitely Rogue right now. I think this deck sees a lot of success when people aren't prepared for towers, like the Arrival Adagnister, but decks are prepared for that right now. And what I mean by that is Despia. Despia's got a very, very good matchup against this, as long as the Despia player knows what they're doing and knows how to build their deck properly. There's 2 outs in Despia, the Ash Dragon and also the Starving Venom Dragon. Most people aren't playing both. Some people are. I know for a tournament, this past Thursday, which I got top 8 with Despia, I was citing the Starving Venom for this matchup, but I never played it. This is in a tough spot, and it also loses really hard to hand traps, and hand traps are pretty decent right now. They're okay, but I definitely think Rogue's a good spot for that. Bee Trooper, I think Bee Trooper is also in Rogue, but I do think it's better than Adagnister currently. Not that I think it's, I do think it's better than Adagnister because this has the ability to search Max C and also has a light floodgate in the form of Retaliating C, which is absolutely phenomenal. This deck did just get 2 hits to it. The DPE hit as well as the adventure hit kind of hurt, but you really don't need to play those in this list, in this deck, for it to be successful. Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk, I think this is definitely Rogue in my opinion. I think this is the worst competitive Tri-Brigade strategy at the moment. because Max C. If Max C wasn't in the metagame, this would probably be the best Trap Brigade strategy. But this lose is too hard to Max C for it to be considered better than the other variants, in my opinion. Blue Eyes, sadly, Blue Eyes still needs support. It's at the bottom of needs support. This deck is not good. It did get a buff with the Jet Dragon, but it's just not enough, sadly. Hopefully in the future we can see Blue Eyes and Dark Magician being competitive. Cyber Dragon's down here with the need support category, with the Blue Eyes, with its anime counterparts. It's I think Cyber Dragon just got a buff with the branded stuff. I think I saw a list playing the branded stuff, but I might be wrong. But it did just lose a lot of consistency with its DPE engine, which is sad. This deck it's a going second deck that doesn't go second as good as other decks, which is kind of unfortunate. Dark Magician. Dark Magician is probably the worst deck on this list, I think. Yeah, sad. But it is what it is. Illusion of Chaos will help, but Illusion of Chaos is going to help other decks more than this one. Thunder Dragons. I think Thunder Dragons are definitely tier worthy. This might be a bold prediction, but I think Branded Thunder Dragon is a sneaky, sneaky tier 3 deck. I think it's very, very strong. It's got very control anti-meta components to it in the form of Thunder Dragon Colossus. It's also got the ability to end on boards like Stapelia, Colossus, and or Titan, Mirror Jade. Plus back it up with the Branded in red. Like, you can end with some crazy boards with this. And this deck is not being prepared for currently. I think it's probably the second or third best variant of Branded, competitive wise. So, but this is my boldest take, I think, on this list. We'll see what happens with this. Triple D, I think DDD is the epitome of a rogue deck right now. I don't think it's as good as Trap Brigade or Adagnister, because this loses to what they lose to. It just loses harder. Sad. It does have a lot going for it, though. If somehow Maxi and Nibiru weren't a card, this rogue list would probably be meta defining. But yeah, DDD is interesting. They have frontline interruptions, they have backline interruptions, they have a really strong engine, really strong grind game. They got a lot going for them, but they lose to too much in the metagame currently. Despia is absolutely meta defining. This is probably the best deck in the game right now. Yesterday was GG Tour, hosted by DLE Yugioh and GG Tour. Shout out to them. Thank you guys so much for always hosting these awesome events. I played yesterday. I played Despia. I played basically a hand trapless Despia list. The only hand trap I played was Maxi, because I think Maxi is kind of mandatory. And I got top 8 with it. I lost to a mirror match, but he was playing hand trap Despia. I won the coin flip, pseudo bricked game 1, soft brick game 1, lost to single Ash Blossom. I kind of built my deck not to lose to Ash Blossom, but I still did anyways, so it's kind of funny. Then game 2, I lost to Super Poly. Plus, he played fantastic. And that guy ended up winning the tournament. But top 8 was 5 Despia, 1 Salamangrate, 1 Dragon Link, and 1 Spiral. 4 Despias got top 4. And Despia won. So the only Despia that didn't make top 4 was me, and it was because I lost to another Despia. This deck is meta defining. I don't know if it's going to remain the best deck for very long, because I think this deck gets solved very quickly. But right now, it's definitely the top tier. Dinos are absolutely rogue tier. I think they're better than Adagnister. But I don't think they're better than like B Troopers. I don't think they're better than like the control decks. Or well, actually, these might not. No, I do think this is better than the 3 before, because this doesn't lose to hand traps the same way. This deck's able to main deck Token Collector, which is absolutely disgusting in a format with a lot of Sword Soul. It's able to play second. It's able to play first. It's able to beat Despia boards because Miscellaneous Air Source is absolutely insane. This deck's got a lot going for it right now, but I don't think it's powerful enough or consistent enough to truly be on the tier list. Dragon Link is absolutely a tier 2 deck. This deck got hit in 2 forms. It lost Hulk, and it lost the Adventure Package, part of the Adventure Package. I know the Adventure Package is not dead, but it's a lot less consistent now. And you play kind of 2 bricks to play, 4 good cards? So It's not as good as it was, definitely, but it's still going to be in the metagame. I want everyone to know it's still going to be in the metagame. It's still relevant. Omni negate Griffin, bouncing cards back with Draco back is still insane. Um, and its follow up is kind of hurt, so that's one reason it's not as good. Plus the bricks. But Dragon Link can easily just transition to a more pure dragon variant. You know, playing the Safers, playing the Chaos Dragon Levianeer, doing those shenanigans. It's still got grass. It's still got Striker Unlimited. It's still got the White and Black Dragon Unlimited. This deck's got a lot going for it, and it top 8'd yesterday. This deck's gonna do stuff. Heroes, bottom of Rogue. It definitely, I would say this needs support, but it really doesn't. Like, it's got so much going for it, but it just loses so hard to so many good cards. Like, it loses so hard to Maxi, it loses so hard to Nibiru. Just like all these other decks, they just lose so hard to Nibiru. But if Nibiru like stays out of the format, which Nibiru is not super popular right now, I could see some of these strategies like moving up. But as soon as that happens, Nibiru is just going to come back into the format. Like, and as soon as like heavy combo decks that lose to Nibiru get popular, Nibiru just comes back. Drytron, I think Drytron is definitely a tier 3 deck. This is slept on. Definitely slept on pretty hard. Benton at 1 is not as big of a hit as people think it is. This deck can still full combo you pretty easily. You just have to know how to play the deck better. You can also substitute the Benton for like an Editen, Natasha. Those aren't as good, obviously. Well, Natasha's insane, but those cards aren't as good. But they still give you gas, and that's what the deck needs. The deck can play almost forever. That's another thing about Thunder Dragons. I don't mean to jump back to Thunder Dragons, but Thunder Dragons can literally play forever. Like, this deck has infinite grind game. So Drytron definitely deserves to be tier 3, and I think Thunder Dragon does as well. Eldritch, I think Eldritch is Rogue, but I don't know where in Rogue. I think Eldritch is probably middle of the pack Rogue right now. It doesn't have a lot going for it, to be honest with you. I think Altergeist does everything Eldritch does, but just better in the form of like control, like stun. Altergeist isn't really a stun deck, it's more a control deck. Eldritch is more stun, but it's missing a lot of floodgates. It's missing some conquistadors. It's got a lot of hits to it. I think this deck's going to have to change. The heavy trap version of Eldritch is probably not the way to play it anymore. I'm thinking a branded zombie world variant is probably the way to go, and maybe we could see this move back up to the top of Rogue, tier 3 like power rankings, but as of now, I think it's a Rogue deck. It did get top 16 yesterday in GT Tour, though. Branded Eldritch did, which is pretty nice. Endymion, this deck is bottom of Rogue, probably needs support. The thing is, I don't really know what support this would get. The fundamental like problem with this deck is the same fundamental problem with Pendulum in general, and that's that it takes too many cards to get going, and when it does, it ends on no better boards than like Drytron or Adamancipator. So, or Dragon Link or any of these like combo decks, all these other combo decks, they do what Pendulum does in less cards and also has better follow up. That's the problem with Endymion and Pendulum in general. For me, I just think this needs some change. Maybe like a Master Rule where you can a new Master Rule where you can Pendulum summon from the extra deck to the main monster zones again, but that might make it too strong. I don't know. But this definitely needs something. I'm actually going to put it needs support because it does. It needs some sort of buff to the mechanic. Flu, I definitely think Flunder is kind of a gatekeeper of the meta. I think if you can't beat Flunder, if you're not prepared for Flunder, you're going to lose. But I think it's better than Rogue. I don't think it's Rogue because these are decks you can like show up to tournaments and not prepare for and do fine, even if you run into them sometimes. But Flu is not. You have to be prepared for this deck or you're going to lose. By that logic, you could even say it's like maybe tier 2, but I'm going to put it atop of tier 3. Invoked is in a rough spot right now. To be honest with you, I'm going to say it's Rogue. You could even make the argument that it needs support / buff because it's missing something. It's one of the worst competitive branded variants. Um, because there's really no reason to play. Like, why would you give like Mirror Jade the running mate of Mechaba when you could just give Mirror Jade the running mate of Stapelia or Guardian Chimera, and it's more consistent and it's more powerful, it's more explosive. Mechaba's insane, and the follow up with Invoked is absolutely insane. But Despia doesn't really have a problem with follow up. So I feel like this does what Despia does, just a little bit slower and a little bit worse. But I love this deck, and I want this deck to be good. I really do. Um, Evil Twin. I think Evil Twin is. I think it's probably top of Rogue. I think it's probably better than Altergeist as far as a kind of a control style deck goes. It's very strong. It's got the ability to play a lot of hand traps. It's got the ability to play some decent back row. Has good follow up. Has good turn one presence. You're able to set up like a. You're able to set up like you don't set up many interruptions, but the interruptions you do set up are pretty impactful, and also you draw a lot. It's hard to kill this deck. It's hard to beat this deck, and it's hard to play through all this deck has because this deck can play for so long. So you definitely have to know how to play against it to beat it, which is why I think it's Rogue is a good spot for it. Madolche is absolutely a Rogue deck. I would say this is probably here. I think it's worse than Beetrooper, but I do think it's better than Dino because it's more consistent than Dino. This deck hasn't been touched at all, really. It just lost Pot of Prosperity, but you can, to be honest, you can sub in Pot of Extravagance. I don't know if I recommend that, but it's got really good forms of removal. It's got really good forms of protection. It's fairly consistent. It's got great follow-up. It's got interruptions all over the board. You can play a lot of hand traps. It's got a lot going for it. Barincess absolutely needs support. This is probably here because I would say this is worse than all of these decks right now. Cyber Dragon, Arm Dragon, ABC, and Endymion. I think it's worse than all of them in its current form, but I think once this gets its support, it's easily going to be a top Rogue or bottom tier 3 strategy. One card combos are just insane. They're just insane. And it's got the ability to main deck Floodgates. And side deck Floodgates, like whatever you want to do. It's pretty great. Orcust definitely needs support. I think it's better. I think it's probably Tappa needs support, but I think it still needs support. Or a buff. What this deck needs is a buff. It needs Galatea at more than 1. It needs Girsu at more than 1. Harp Horror coming back to 2 is great, cool. It doesn't need that. It can function on 1 Harp Horror fine. It needs the starters. It needs the extenders, not the gas. Like the deck's got plenty of gas, and Harp Horror is really just gas. But it's also it's an extender, but it needs the Galatea, is what I mean. Sadly, Orcust is here, and now I want Orcust to be one of the best decks in the game. I love this deck. Sadly, it's just not. I'm curious to see what people come up with, though. I think some interesting strategies could come out of this. Pendulum Magicians. I think it's down here with Endymion. I don't think this is good. I think it does what the combo decks above it do, but it does it worse, in my opinion. The Odd Eyes Pendulum Fusion Dragon thing. I don't know what its name is exactly. I forgot its name, but that card's insane. Like that card's literally insane. But it does so much to do not enough. Like it's got decent follow up. It uses all of its cards, all of its gas to make its board. And then if the board gets broken, it's game over. It's really bad playing second. And it's really only good playing first. And even though it's like good playing first, it's not as good as like Drytron or Adamancipator, right? So that's where I stand on that. This is Adventure Phantom Knights. I think this is either meta defining or tier 2. I'm going to leave it at tier 2 right now. I think it's probably better than Dragon Link because it's no, I think Dragon Link's probably better. I think this deck is still really, really good. I think it's being slept on. I don't think the adventure hit is really hit to this deck specifically because this deck gets into its gets into its sorry, can't speak. Gets into the adventure engine through Cherubini. So it doesn't really hurt it. This deck is still going to have plenty of access to the adventure engine, but it's DPE is what really hurt this deck getting hit. I think this deck needs to transition to a non-DPE variant for it to be good. If it continues to try to jam DPE in the deck, I think it's going to fall down to tier 3, maybe even Rogue. But if they kind of commit to this more rank 3 link, like 3-axis kind of turbo, I think this will be a tier 2 deck, without a doubt. Prank Kids. Prank Kids have fallen off super hard. I think Prank Kids are down here somewhere. I don't know exactly where. They might be closer to the top of Rogue than where I have them now, but the DPE hit hurts this deck's follow-up so much. The Meow hit hurts this deck's follow-up so much. And the Adventure hit hurts this deck's consistency. This deck's and it's not changing. The strategy doesn't change because of these hits. The strategy stays the same, it just gets worse. And other decks are just getting better. So, well, that's not necessarily true, but none of these decks are really getting hurt. This might be bold. This might be too low, but right now this is where I think it is. You still got to be able to beat this deck though, because if it goes first and it opens Adventure plus like Butler, like it's still really good. Salad. I think Salad is surprisingly the best. I think Salad is surprisingly the best cyber strategy right now, which is crazy to think about, but it is. Adagnister is very, very strong, but it's not great going second. Salad is. Salad's phenomenal going second. This deck can OTK like it's no one's business going second. It can set up really, really hard to break through boards. Not hard to break through, but hard to kill through. Hard to lethal through. So it's got great forms of like stun / control in the form of Baguska, Rage, Roar. Its back row, its hand traps. It's got the ability to play 15 hand traps in combo off like 1 or 2 cards. It's clean right now, and I really like it. If Gazelle came to 3, we could see this deck really, really, really move up into this tier 3, tier 2 range. But for now, I think it's top of Rogue. It might be better than Altergeist. Honestly, it might be better than Evil Twin. Struggling here. It might be here. It might be better than Evil Twin. It did top 8 yesterday in GG Tour. It's been topping a lot of events recently. It was topping events before the Gazelle buff, and it's going to continue to top with them now. Just more people are going to play it now, as opposed to like the 1 or 2 people that consistently do good with it. Yeah, I think this is a good spot for it. I'm excited for the structure deck. I'm excited to build this. Looking forward to it. Okay, so this represents 3-axis or adventure combo. This definitely needs something. It's not good anymore, at least in its current form. It's dead in its current form. Like it's down here with Dark Magician, based on the current ban list in the current list. What this needs is it needs to find a new combo. It needs to find a way to abuse something like Union Carrier, or like turn into Verte, DPE Control, which is terrible. Like just Scythe Dagdalox, which it's not going to do anything without Hulk. Hulk is what makes that good. It needs to find some combo with Union Carrier for this deck to actually be relevant again. But until then, it's just going to sit here. It's going to sit down here, to be honest with you. It's going to be non-existent. But if it can find a Union Carrier combo, it can move back up into the Rogue tier 3 combo, in tier 3 level. So for now, I'm going to put this all the way down here. Absolutely terrible. Shaddolls are definitely Rogue. They're not tiered right now, but they are better than Invoked for sure. Better than Heroes. They're definitely better than DDD. I think they're... This is tough. Because I'm trying to think of, like, control decks. Like, what control decks are better than this? I think I think they're all better than this right now. I mean, I think this is probably here. I think Adagnister's got an edge over it because I think Adagnister's consistent. but I think it's better than no. I honestly I don't even think it's better than Lyrilusk. I don't know. This is tough because Shadal's got a lot going for it. It's got the ability to play turn one very very well. Going for Winda turn one, backed up with like Mirror Jade or something is really good. That's hard to get though. That board is hard to end on. Um, and having the ability to play second with six branded fusions, essentially, the three Shadal fusions, the three branded fusions, fusion summoning from your deck, is really really nice. But if it's a going second list, I guess if you built this deck for going second, it could be interesting. But then it loses out on what Shadal does really really good, and that's stun with Winda. I think this deck is trying to do. It's got too many moving pieces and not doesn't have a true identity right now for it to be higher than this. I think you're better off just playing pure Despia or Thunder Dragon Despia. But these, honestly, these could totally be switched, and I'm just like crazy. But I think this is the second best variant of branded, or the third, depending on the Tri Brigade. Right? Sky Striker. Sky Striker's pretty mid right now. I don't think it's very good. I think this it's the deck is just not in a good place. One Kagari is kind of game over for this deck, to be honest. Like a good striker player can win, um, but you have to rely on non-engine to win usually in this variant, and I don't like that. I think having to rely on non-engine makes your deck kind of bad. Just play a better engine, and then play those same support cards, and you'll win more. Generally, that's not a like factually statement like 100% of the time, but generally that's what's going to happen. So I think that's why Sky Striker's down here. If Kagari comes to 2 or 3, we could see it move up to the bottom tier 3 top rogue level, but as of now, I think it's here. Spellbooks are absolutely a rogue deck. This is definitely, it probably needs support. Like it probably is down here. It probably needs support. But actually, you know what? This is hard because I want to put this here because it needs it, but I think it's good enough to compete without it. But it definitely needs support. So this is hard. Spellbooks. I saw an idea for like a Spellbook Sky Striker list running around, which could be interesting. They kind of work fluently together. I think you're gonna have to work out some kinks because Judgment doesn't work with the Sky Striker cards because you want to have no monsters in your main zone, and Spellbook of Judgment puts monsters in your main zone. So there's conflictions there, but the spell turbo definitely works in Sky Striker's favor. So I could see like a hybrid of these working together, but a standalone Spellbook deck needs support, in my opinion, even with Judgment coming back. Jowgen's not enough. One Fate is not enough. Ending on a Fate plus a Jowgen's not going to do anything. Spirals are absolutely tier 2 right now. This deck is insane. 2 quick fixes and no other hits on the ban list is absolutely ridiculous. The only danger card on the ban list, I think, is the green one, Jackalope, or yeah, that's the green one. Everything else is unlimited. This deck is getting more consistent by the day. And when Illusion of Chaos comes out, this is going to be the best deck in the game. Probably. It loses super hard to Maxi. Droll is very good versus it, but it doesn't matter. Like, this deck is going to be so good that there's really going to be nothing we can do about it. But as of now, I think it's probably middle range, top of tier 2. Middle range, the bottom of tier 2. One topped yesterday, and one got top 8. However, it was a player that has been playing Spirals for as long as I've seen him play. So that seems more like a player thing than a deck thing, if you ask me. But I think as more people learn this deck's also very complicated. So there's that. But I think as this deck starts to get figured out more people will play it, and we'll see it probably rise on the tier list. Sword Soul is absolutely meta-defining. This is one of, if not the best decks in the game. I think it's probably the second best deck in the game behind Despia. I just think Despia's got a really good matchup. Because Despia goes first better. It sets up more versatile interruptions. And it goes second better. It can just break boards. Not necessarily better. I shouldn't say that, because Sword Soul breaks boards like it's no one's business. But I think all in all, like, this deck just has more going for it than Sword Soul at the current state. Also, side decking is a lot easier for Sword Soul because the same cards hit Sword Soul that hit Despia. So D Barrier just breaks Sword Soul. It breaks Despia too. Like it's really good against both lists. But you also have Token Collector against Sword Soul, which is an FTK. You know, Sword Soul does have Protos, which is what's keeping it in the meta-defining category because Protos single-handedly can win you games against Despia. It can single-handedly win you games against Rocket, Adventure Phantom Knights, Spirals, Thunder Dragons, like all this stuff. It can like win you games against all this stuff. Drytron, it completely shuts down Drytron. You just call light. Who cares about your Shishao? Let it go to the graveyard. Just lock them out of effects. Lock them out of summoning. Not effects, but summoning. This deck's insane. Yesterday in GG Tour, I played 2 leading up to top 8. Um, the first one I played should have beat me game 1, but he disconnected. Game 2, I kind of just did Despia things and destroyed him. He went first that first game. So game 3, I mean, who knows what would have happened? He might have beat me. But then I played another Sword Soul later, and I just kind of broke his board. Game 1. Game 2, I couldn't break his board. Game 3, I just basically FTK'd him. He was able to respond, but then I just killed him the next turn. So it's a hard matchup, but this deck is definitely meta defining. Adventure Tinny's down here. Adventure Tinny. No, I'm not going to say it's all the way down there. I'm going to say it's top of need support because this deck can still make a Rorodon pretty easily. But it needs to come up with some Union Carrier combo. If it comes with the Union Carrier combo, this deck will be fine. It'll go back up to Rogue, back up to maybe even Tier 3. Probably not. Same with the Adventure combo down here, but this is just better because it has a real engine. Tri-Brigade is absolutely meta-defining. This deck just got an insane buff by how it getting nerfed. And Adventure getting nerfed. So this deck is fantastic. You can play this deck pure. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. You can play this deck with Branded. Highly recommend. It's very good. You can play it with Zodiac. Absolutely insane. You can play it with Zodiac and Adventure. I won a tournament a few weeks ago with that exact list. It's on the channel. Go check it out. That list is insane. That deck is insane, and that didn't really get nerfed by the Adventure going to 1, the Temple going to 1, because just put another hand trap in and you'll be fine. So, or whatever you want. Like this deck it's super consistent. It's solid. It's rock solid, and it's not going anywhere. It's a gatekeeper of the meta, and you have to be prepared for it if you're playing. Virtual World is middle of the pack rogue. I would say it's worse than Dinos, better than Eldritch. It's got some things going for it. It's got Shin Shin. Shin Shin's great, but Shin Shin's not good against Despia. It's good against a lot of things, but not Despia. It's got Baron. It can make Shishao. Not Shishao. Chen Yang. It can make a lot of really powerful synchro monsters, and it's got good follow-up, but it's inconsistent. It's got a lot of hits. So, sadly, I think it's here. Zodiac. I think Zodiac is probably the gatekeeper of Rogue. I know I keep saying that, but I really do think this is the gatekeeper of Rogue. I don't think it's better than Salad, necessarily. I don't know, this is tough. Honestly, I think all of these decks here, some from B Trooper to Zodiac, I think they're all kind of like in the same category, with Salad being better. I'm going to put Salad here because I think Salad's better. But I would say all these like control decks are all kind of here, and they're kind of gatekeeping the meta. If you can't beat these random rogue control decks, you're not going to have a good time in the meta. Yeah, Zodiac's got like a lot going for it. It can play D-Shifter, which is not as good in this format as it has been in previous formats, specifically because Despia doesn't hard lose to it. But there's that. It's got the ability to play 20 hand traps or something like that in the main board. 1-card starters can go second very, very well. Zeus breaks boards like crazy. So it just doesn't have a great going first turn. So that's why I think it's worse than Salad. But it's got like a better going second than like Evil Twin or Altergeist. So So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave this here. This could get shaken up a bit. Let me know what you guys think about it. I hope I'm not forgetting any decks. I spent a lot of time trying to decide what decks to put on here, and I think I covered my bases pretty well. But that's gonna do it for the tier list for the post ban list, post Hulk ban, post Newborn Dragon set release. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the video. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this. I'm gonna try to do some more tier list related content for Master Duel because I think it's really good content. I think it's really important for everyone to know about the metagame they're playing, whether it's on the ladder or in tournaments. Uh, but like I said, thank you guys so much for checking out the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.